Hey there, welcome to another Website Wednesday. So today we are going to be talking about structuring your website headings and why it matters. And when we're talking about website headings, I'm talking about things like your H1, H2, H3 tags. And these can really make or break the usability and the search engine optimization of your site. So if you've ever just emboldened text or made it a little bit bigger to make it look like a heading, or you've just used some kind of random size because it looks nice, then stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to structure your headings properly so that your site looks polished, performs better, and really it's a lot easier to navigate, especially for people who have accessibility issues. So headings really aren't just about making your text look big and bold. They can be the skeleton of your page. They create a framework for you. And we already know that visitors to our website are in a rush, and visitors will scan really quickly to find what they need. And headings can help us with that because they help structure the content. But also search engines really understand what your page is about when your headings are structured correctly. And screen readers for people who might be visually impaired are going to navigate the page for people with visual impairments using those headings that you've created. So using the framework that you're outlining. And so when headings are used correctly, your content feels much more organized, it feels more professional, and it's much easier to read both for humans and for search engines. So let me introduce you to some of the levels of headings. And you've probably seen options like H1, H2, H3, all the way down to H6. And here's exactly how they should work. So H1, you should just have one per page. It's really defining the main topic of what that page is talking about. And usually it will reflect the actual title of the page. And often you can just think of this as your book title. And then your H2 are the logical sections, often what we can think of as chapter titles. And these mark the main sections of your content, breaking your content down into really clear chunks. And then your H3 are the subsections that support the points or details within the H2s. And then the H4, H5, and H6s are for further nesting. And you can keep going if you need to, but most small sites won't need to do that. Let me share a little diagram because it might help you understand this. So I do have a checklist. If you want to get hold of the checklist, just pop checklist into the comments below, and I will send you the link where you can download this. But this gives us a really quick overview. So these are your H1s, and you can see them structured as HTML tags because that's exactly what they are. It's just that we often, using the page builders that we use now, we don't often have to see them structured in this way like actual HTML tags. So that H1, it's really important that you only ever have one per page. And that really is the overarching topic of the page. And then H2 is those logical sections, H3s are the subsections. And very often you won't be using the H4 down to H6s because you simply don't need them. You can use them if you want to, but you often just won't need to. And you want to be really careful about not skipping levels if you can. So move down the hierarchy in order. So from H1 to H2 to H3, and don't then just jump straight from an H1 to an H4 just because you think it looks nice. Because headings aren't really just for styling, they're for the actual structure. They offer much more functionality than just looking nice. If you removed all of your body content and you only looked at your headings, your page should still make sense as an outline. And remember, if you go all the way back to your school days where you wrote those outlines for the essays in English, that's what your headings should actually be looking at. So when you're thinking about structuring a page correctly, let's say it was my services page, a good structure would look like the H1 would be web design services. That's like the title of the page. Then I might have an H2, which is custom website design or custom WordPress design. And then under that, I would have an H3, which is like what's included, and then another H3 of who it's for. And then I could drop down to an H2, which is website maintenance plans. And then an H3 under that could be monthly care. And then another H3 could be ongoing support. And then it looks logical like an outline. So let me show you how this might look in an outline like this. So in that example that I've just given you, this H1 could be website design services, the H2 could be custom WordPress design, and then H3 would be what's included and who it's for. And then if I wanted some extra sub points, maybe some FAQs in here for the headings. And then under here, I might have website care plans, and this might be monthly maintenance, for example, and then so on. So I can carry on down there. So you can see how it just looks like an outline and how it could still make sense if someone's scanning it and they're not reading all of the body text in between that. So the common mistakes that I see people making are they add multiple H1s, because often that's how builders style things visually. It's using the actual titles, or skipping levels, so jumping straight from an H1 to an H4 because it looks right. And sometimes because we're looking at things through the eye of a designer rather than through the eyes of the search engine or someone who's working with it through a page reader, then it makes logical sense to us. Whereas if you're looking at the kind of syntax of it, it doesn't. Another mistake is just using the headings for styling. So for example, making text an H2 just because you want it to look bigger, or not using any headings at all, just emboldening the text or randomly changing the size of the text, where it's really just paragraph text, body text that doesn't have any weight in terms of the search engines because it's not shown as a heading. It's not marked up as a heading. So each of these mistakes confuses the readers and it confuses search engines. So quick wins that you can use to fix it. So you can check your headings. There are ways that you can do this in WordPress, but actually, so using the document outline, but I'm actually going to show you a tool that you can use, which makes it much easier. But do make sure that you've only got one H1 per page and keep your headings meaningful. So avoid really vague labels like welcome or more info. You want to make sure that they're benefits driven headlines that you're using, and use keywords naturally. So don't stuff them in, but think about things like for your headline, if we go back to that example that I had of website care plans, that's going to be more constructive and useful to both the user that visited your website and search engines than something like our services. And then keep your sentences short and scannable. So people will skim first when they visit your page, and then they will read second. So they'll skim it to see if it's relevant to them, to make sure that it's the topic that they're wanting to see the answers to, and then they will go through it and read it. So I'm going to show you that tool in a second, but let's just wrap this up in terms of how the actions that you're going to take based on this and some of the things that we covered. So the main thing is really to just use one H1 per page. Use the H2s for the main sections of the body content of your page, and H3s for the subsections that kind of explain what the H2s are about. And keep your structure logical, like an outline, because your website is going to be so much cleaner and it's going to perform better for this, and it's going to be more accessible to people using it. And so I do have this checklist that's going to give you some kind of visuals around this that might be really helpful to you. So just drop a comment below, just say checklist, and I will send that over to you. But before we go, I just want to show you a tool that you can use that's going to help you out with this. And so you can add in a URL for any page on your site. So if I just go to the About Me page on my site, we just grab that link. If I check the page header titles on here, you should hopefully see that it kind of structures in a hierarchy. So what it does, and I really like, there's actually lots of these checkers that you can use that show you what the headings are. This one I like because it's clean, it's not too cluttered with lots of adverts and that kind of thing. So it gives you what the H1 is, it walks you through the H2s, the H3s. I do have some H4s in here. I don't have any H5s or H6s on there. And it just means that if there's anything on there, you kind of go, it kind of doesn't really make logical sense to me, then you can go back and change it. And also things like my headline on here, now that I see it in isolation, I don't think it's great. So I need to go back and have a look at that. I'm actually in the process of revamping my entire website anyway. So that's the kind of thing that I will look at during that revamp process. But if you're just tweaking a page, or if you're going in and you're looking at a page based on the structure like this, it's a really good way for you to isolate the headings, see what you've got. It will highlight if you've got two H1s, which is something that you do just want to address if you have got more than one H1 on a page, and just check that the syntax, that the kind of structure and the framework flows logically. Okay, that's it for today. So let me know if you've got any questions. Just post your questions in the comments below, and join me for another website or marketing topic next week for Website Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me.